Brooklyn Beckham didn't just call out his parents on Instagram, he basically declared war on a $500 million family empire built on his last name. In one post, he blew up the carefully curated image of a united brand Beckham and dragged it into a messy public fight over who owns his identity. When you line up the real timeline, the deleted evidence, and the industry fallout already starting to ripple through their deals, it stops looking like a harmless misunderstanding and starts looking like a family-controlled corporation trying to lock down its most valuable assets before they break away. And the wild part is that the asset in this story is a son who now says he was pressured to sign away the rights to his own name right before his wedding. Now, before we get into the timeline they're trying to scrub, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. The mainstream media is currently being paid to bury this story, but I'm showing you the receipts they deleted and the context they're too scared to post. Don't let the PR spin win. Join the drip right now. So let's start with the receipts that set this whole thing on fire. On January 19, 2026, Brooklyn, now 26, dropped a bombshell Instagram story statement accusing David and Victoria of trying to bribe him into signing away the rights to his name before his 2022 wedding to Nicola Peltz. In that post, he claimed his parents were adamant he signed documents before the wedding date because once he was married, the terms of the deal would kick in, impacting how he could use his own name and how the money would flow in the future. He wrote that his refusal affected the payday and that his parents have never treated him the same since. That is not normal family drama. That is language you use about business partners and contract leverage, not a mom and dad sending you off to your big day. Here's where the deleted evidence comes in. His stories didn't stay up forever, but they triggered a wave of people digging into official records, and that's where the paper trail gets really uncomfortable for the Beckham brand. UK Intellectual Property Office records show that the name Brooklyn Beckham was actually filed as a trademark back in December 2016, with the owner listed as Victoria Beckham as parent and guardian of Brooklyn Beckham, covering everything from cosmetics and sunglasses to bags, clothing, toys, and entertainment services. On top of that, reports then highlighted that Victoria owns similar trademarks for all four of their children: Brooklyn, Romeo, Cruz, and Harper. So while Brooklyn was a minor or just entering adulthood, his name was quietly turned into a legally controlled brand asset under his mother's name. On one hand, this looks like a textbook PR and brand management move. Celebrities trademark their kids' names all the time to stop random third parties from slapping them on perfume or fast fashion. On the other hand, when you combine that with Brooklyn's claim that his parents later tried to pressure him into signing an agreement before the wedding date and tied it to a payday, the timing and secrecy feel way too transactional to be just about protection. That's where the story stops making sense if you treat this as just loving parents trying to keep their son safe. To really understand the real timeline, you have to zoom out from that Instagram post and look at how brand Beckham was built. David went from football star to global business mogul, co-owning Inter Miami FC in Major League Soccer, a club now valued well north of $1 billion, thanks in part to the Lionel Messi signing and the upcoming Miami Freedom Park Stadium, which itself is a roughly $1 billion project. Recently, David locked in a 5-year partnership with Bank of America as a sports ambassador, tied into the 2026 World Cup and a push into youth sports programs. That's big bank money, World Cup exposure, and U.S. sports infrastructure, huge institutional partners that want stability, not family lawsuits over a surname. At the same time, Victoria, who once was mocked for running a vanity fashion label that never made money, has spent years turning Victoria Beckham into a legitimate luxury brand. Multiple reports have noted that the fashion house only recently tipped into profitability after David quietly injected tens of millions of pounds. Estimates have put his total support around £38 million across the years to keep it alive while it built its credibility and customer base. The Beckham name isn't just the family, it's the logo on perfume boxes, fashion shows, sunglasses, and endorsement contracts. Every move they make is about controlling that name and packaging it as a unified aspirational lifestyle. Now, drop Brooklyn into that machine. He's the eldest, the one who grew up as the original Beckham baby, photographed in stadiums and on red carpets before he could walk. As an adult, he tried modeling and photography, but recently he's been rebranding himself as a cooking and lifestyle figure. One of his biggest concrete wins is Cloud 23, his hot sauce brand, which he's managed to get into major retailers. In a Brand Week feature, Brooklyn described how he personally approached Whole Foods and landed the product there. Cloud 23 is now stocked in around 533 Whole Foods stores in the US, plus locations in the UK and other high-end retailers like Erewhon and Bristol Farms. That's serious distribution for any startup, let alone a celebrity food brand. Here's where the trademark tension becomes an industry fallout risk. If Victoria holds the trademarks for Brooklyn Beckham across core categories like food-adjacent merchandising, lifestyle goods, and entertainment services, then anytime Brooklyn wants to slap his full name on a product, a cookbook, or a TV show, he could be stepping into territory legally controlled by his own mother. Imagine building Cloud 23 into a cult hot sauce and then finding out that expanding into Brooklyn Beckham's Cloud 23 kitchen cookware or Brooklyn Beckham branded meal kits might technically require licensing your name from your parents' holding company. Even if these negotiations are friendly on paper, the leverage imbalance is obvious. The parents control the trademark, the asset is the talent seeking permission. On one hand, you could argue this is smart corporate governance. The Beckham brand, worth hundreds of millions across football, fashion, endorsements, and licensing, needs to be centralized. You don't want every child running off doing random deals that could undercut luxury image or dilute pricing power. On the other hand, if the child feels like a product who has to earn back their own name, it becomes a moral and emotional nightmare. Brooklyn's Instagram statement, with words like bribe and payday, reads like someone who finally realized he wasn't just being included in the family business, he was being signed into a long-term role he didn't fully understand until it was almost too late. The wedding is the pressure point that changes everything. Brooklyn married Nicola Peltz, whose family is themselves extremely wealthy, with billionaire backing from her father's side. Brooklyn now uses the name Brooklyn Peltz Beckham publicly, combining both surnames. That's not just romantic, it's legally interesting. Any trademarks that only cover Brooklyn Beckham may not automatically extend to Brooklyn Peltz Beckham, which creates a messy gray zone. If Brooklyn leans into the Peltz side or uses the double-barrel name for his own projects, he could carve out a parallel brand identity that partially escapes the Beckham trademark net. From a corporate perspective, that's terrifying. The core asset of the next generation now has an alternate channel to monetize his name outside the family's central control. What you're about to hear next is what the team behind Brand Beckham is actually afraid of. If Brooklyn formally challenges the old trademarks or opposes renewal of his name registration as it comes up, he could force public legal fights over whether he consented, whether registrations done as parent and guardian should stay with Victoria now that he's an adult, and whether the commercial value of Brooklyn Beckham is separate from the global Beckham brand. Legal commentators have already pointed out that his registration is due to expire and could be opposed or refiled in a way that shifts control. Even if they settle quietly, the very existence of that dispute chips away at the clean, aspirational marketing image that has made sponsors like Bank of America comfortable tying up with David. And remember, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Headlines are already describing trademarks on the names of the 4 Beckham children being questioned amid drama between the family members, with sources trying to downplay it as a misunderstanding. When a family's lawyer or source close to the family is rushing to frame a legal ownership structure as just a sweet protective measure, you know they see the PR risk. If fans start to see Brooklyn as the exploited child who was turned into a walking trademark and then punished for pushing back, it doesn't just hurt Victoria's fashion line, it calls into question every wholesome family-centric campaign David has done in the US and globally. Here's the midpoint where the clickbait title stops being clickbait and becomes receipts. Look at the numbers. David is now fronting a multi-year Bank of America partnership linked to the 2026 World Cup and a massive youth sports initiative in the US. This is a man whose personal brand is now intertwined with major financial institutions and global sporting bodies. Any hint that his family empire is built on aggressive, maybe even exploitive control of his kids' names risks making those partners nervous, especially in a culture that is hypersensitive to stories about controlling parents and child stars being treated like business assets. At the same time, Victoria's newly profitable fashion label depends on aspirational, female-driven branding, the cool, disciplined ex-Spice Girl who became a respected designer. Publicly, she's positioned as the mastermind who turned Beckham into a luxury-adjacent name.
Reports stressing that she owns the kids' name trademarks reinforce that image. She's the boss, the strategist, the one who secured the future by locking everything down. But flip the narrative, and it quickly starts to look like a mother who turned her children into IP portfolios without ensuring they felt emotionally or financially empowered by that decision. On one hand, this could still be spun as a PR misunderstanding. Their team can say, "We filed those trademarks to protect the kids. They'll own them eventually. This is all love." They can leak stories that Brooklyn was confused, emotional, or manipulated by outside influences. On the other hand, the deleted evidence, his own words accusing them of pressure, the timing around the wedding, and the mountain of official filings makes it very hard to sell this as innocent. Fans are used to reading between the lines. When a grown son goes nuclear in public, it's usually because quieter conversations behind the scenes went nowhere. What about Brooklyn himself? Cloud 23 is still relatively young, but already in more than 500 Whole Foods locations, a dream pipeline for any food entrepreneur. If he continues to build that brand and perhaps adds restaurants, cooking shows, or kitchen products, he may feel increasingly confident standing on his own. If he believes that his parents see his success as something that must be routed through their trademark structures, he might double down on presenting himself as Brooklyn Peltz Beckham, or even leaning into Brooklyn Peltz to symbolically and commercially distance himself from their control. That's where the long-term industry fallout could be most brutal, a visible, permanent fracture between the patriarch's brand and the eldest son's brand, right when succession and next-generation stories usually get rolled out softly for public consumption. But that's not even the worst part. The bigger question hanging over all of this is whether brand Beckham can survive as a unified family concept if one of its core members is publicly accusing the founders of treating him like an asset to be locked down. For years, the appeal has been that they were a glamorous but relatable family. The football icon, the fashion queen, the stylish kids all growing up under the same glossy umbrella. Sponsors and luxury partners weren't just buying David's right foot or Victoria's dresses, they were buying the image of a family dynasty. In one Instagram story, Brooklyn turned that dynasty into a courtroom drama about consent, ownership, and the price of carrying a famous surname. So does this mean Brooklyn really nuked the $500 million empire? Not overnight. The deals are signed, the stadium is being built, the Bank of America campaigns are scheduled, and Victoria's label finally has some momentum. But what he did detonate is the illusion that the family brand was purely about love and legacy. he exposed the contractual skeleton underneath the matching outfits in cute interviews. If more details leak, drafts of the contract he refused to sign, emails about the payday, or internal discussions about how to manage his name post-wedding, the damage to their reputation could snowball far beyond this week's headlines. In the end, here's what we're left with. First, the real timeline shows that long before Brooklyn's outburst, his name was trademarked and controlled by his mother alongside his siblings as part of a coordinated intellectual property strategy. Second, the deleted evidence, his Instagram accusations, since softened or disappeared, revealed that those legal structures were not just theoretical, but something he felt tangibly pressured by in the lead-up to his 2022 wedding, with money and control on the line. Third, the industry fallout is just beginning. A son carving out his own ventures like Cloud23, a father tied to billion-dollar sports and banking deals, and a mother whose fashion house now sits under a harsher light whenever we talk about who really owns the Beckham kids' names. So here's the question I'll leave you with. When a family turns their surname into a corporation, what happens when one of the products decides he wants to own himself?